Okay, I'm going to do a video on gloves today. I've been having a little trouble with the metallic gloves. For some reason, my machine keeps wanting to skip stitches. Anyway, let me start from the beginning. I've made up 3 patterns. One pattern for the metallics. This is for the Lycra. One pattern for the Journey Girls, and one pattern for the American Girls and the Madame Alexander. They're the exact pattern, only just a little bit smaller. Like the Journey Girl is, the Journey Girl's a little thinner through the wrist area, and I didn't give her such a large thumb. And then for the metallics, because it doesn't want to stretch very much, I'm going to do a video on the metallics, and then I'll go to the regular Lycra. So I was at Joann's, and they had a big sale going on, and so I went over to the Lycra where all the Lycra is, and I bought a few eighth of a yard pieces of this Lycra. They were $1.27 a piece because it was $16.99 a yard at 40% off, and an eighth of a yard came to $1.27. And $1.27 at 40% is not bad for these gloves, because you can make quite a few gloves, and an eighth of a yard is enough for any of these patterns. So because what we're going to do is we're just going to make a pair of gloves out of these eighth of a yard pieces of fabric, which is very simple. But one thing you have to realize is this Lycra doesn't have the same stretch capability in all the different pieces. Like here's the pink, and you'll notice the stretch capability on this pink is quite a lot. But if you go to the metallics, the ones that have the shiny spots on them, or even the gold, you can't get the same stretch. So you're going to have to make your, you'll still get the 4-way stretch, but you're not going to get anywhere near the stretch you will get on the plain white ones. This is just, you can just tell by looking on the camera that you're not going to get the same stretch with the same amount of pull. And I've already done one, and I did it with the regular pattern, and you can tell by looking at this glove that it's really stretched out of shape. You can see all the white between the silver in here, and that's not really what you want, but you can tell how I had a hard time getting it on this doll too. So this is a Madame Alexander. I had a hard time getting this glove. Let me set her down. I had a hard time getting this glove on her hand. It fits better on the Journey Girls, but even still, you can see that there's not a lot of stretch. So if you look at the American Girl here with the green gloves on, they really stretch a lot, and that's why I'm saying that every type of fabric you use is going to have a different stretch. So you have to keep that in consideration when you're making these gloves. So if it's too tight when you make one, you're going to have to increase the pattern, make it a little bit bigger. I changed the pattern. If you got the original pattern from me, I sent out this one right here. You can tell this is not the same pattern that I've been using on these. I'll send out a new one, but see the difference between the pattern I originally sent out and the new pattern? It's quite a bit smaller. This one's way too big. It's pretty much the same pattern. It's just that I don't have any seam allowances on these, and the reason why is because we're going to actually iron these onto, or pin this onto the pattern as we sew it, and we're just going to follow along this line. But I'll go ahead and get one started for you. Okay, so that's the pattern. So let's start with, I'm going to do a metallic, and the reason why is because I had so many skipped stitches, and I went online to find out, well, why am I skipping so many stitches? And there was a lady who did the sportswear, the outfits in this, and she was having the same problem, so she asked for some advice, and she was told to use a 75-11 Jersey ballpoint needle. I forget the name of the make, but it wasn't Schmidt's, it was something else. And if you buy a case of Jersey ballpoint needles, you're not going to get that 7511. So what I've been using is the 8012. So I don't, you know, whether that helps or not, I don't know. She also went, instead of using regular Coats and Clark's thread, they told her to use that Gutterman's or Guterman's, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And then they also had her put some kind of felt on the top of her machine so her thread would touch that felt as it went through the machine. I don't know if it was coated with anything. They didn't really make it clear. But I'm going to go ahead and show you the difficulty I had with the metallic, and then it'll be a breeze to make one of these green ones that are just simple to make, very simple. These green ones, these ones just take no time at all to make, very, very simple. But it's the metallics you're going to have trouble with. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to take your strip of your 1/8 of a yard. I've already cut one off, so I'm just going to take this side. Get a cutter out if you don't have one, because you're going to need a clean edge. So I'm going to use the metallic version of this pattern. I'm going to fold my fabric in half until I have enough fabric to put this edge along the fold. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'm going to, that's too much, I don't want to waste that much fabric. So let's go ahead and move this down a little bit, and then I'll have enough there. Okay, good enough. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a cut. Okay, so that's one glove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a clean edge on one side of the bottom here. And the reason why is because we're going to turn this up. Let me cut the bigger edge so I have more of a room. I'm going to turn this up and make a cut, make my turn in under on this side. Okay, so I got a clean cut here. So what you can do is, if you can get pins in these, I pinned this one, but I ended up making a bigger seam on the inside of this one than I than I did on the green ones. And the reason was because I had a hard time getting it to fold correctly. I don't know if it's just the metallic or what it is, but I'll give it a try again, see if I can get a smaller edge on this one. Doesn't matter, you're not going to see it anyway. So let's go ahead and put another pin here. Okay, now another thing is you can't start your, make sure you have sharp pins, especially going through this. It's almost like going through rubber. So use your sharpest pins that you can. Okay. So one more. I'm going to use a knit stitch, and I'm going to use that ballpoint jersey needle, the 8020. I'm using regular everyday thread. I'm using gray thread to match the silver. That could be one of my problems, but I don't have any nice, good Coats and Clark's thread. So I'm going to go to a knit stitch. I'm going to use my number 5 knit stitch. You're going to see how many stitches I'm going to skip when I do this, but because I'm just putting in this seam right here, it says use a bigger stitch. So I'm going to go to a 3 millimeter and a 1.5 millimeter setting on my machine. Okay, so what I'm going to do also is I'm going to give myself a little starter, so that my fabric doesn't get caught in the machine. So I'm going to ease that up against that. See how I've got that piece of fabric underneath there, so that my fabric won't go down into my feed dogs. So I'm going to start over here on the regular fabric, and that thread will help hold up the start of the glove. and that didn't work. I can tell already it's going to go down into the feed dogs. Okay, let's try something else. That didn't work. Where's my scissors? I had so much trouble with these metallics. It was just... Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start in away from the edge. So let's try it this way. Okay, so let me take out that first pin. Let's try this way. Okay, so now my fabric wants to stretch a little bit, so let's go ahead and try to keep it as even as possible. Okay, so let's take another one out. Oh, did you see my skip? Just my stitch just skipped twice. It's not catching at all. Yeah, not catching at all. Okay, let's see how bad it was. Okay, it is right there. Do you see that? I don't think you can. Maybe on this side. No, you can't see it on this side either. But you can see this way. Let me see if I can show you. See that whole section right there? From here to here? No catching whatsoever. So I'm going to go and see if I can pick that up again. Just so I can make sure that there's some stitches in there. So it was just that one spot I had trouble with. So let me go ahead and cover that up. Okay, well that's not going to work either. So let's just go with that. These stitches are. That's what I mean about this metallic. It is just terrible. Okay, so there's that stitch. Alright, we'll go ahead and make the most of it. We'll just use this one up anyway. Maybe I'll have to go get some of that Gutterman's thread so I can make these better. And I don't have skip stitches. Okay, so anyway, fold this in half. Let me see how much time we've got. I'm going to have to go to another section here in a minute. Okay, so take your fabric, fold it in half. Your right and your left side of your glove it's the same exact pattern. It's just how you put your pattern, how you sew your pattern on. So we're going to sew our pattern on this way. I used too much fabric, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and fold this way, put a pin in it. Now, I can't iron on this metallic. It just will not let me. I've tried already. I've tried. You don't want to go too hot of an iron. I went halfway on the iron. I couldn't get it hot enough to get the pattern to stick. So what we're just going to do is we're just going to pin it down. We're just going to pin the pattern down and sew around it. So let's just go ahead and fold this. Put a couple pins in it. Okay, take your pattern, line it up against the fold of the fabric, and then we will pin it down. You want to put your pins down away from the sewing area because you don't want it to hit your needle, or you want it to be able to get your foot around the fabric. Okay, so just like that, just pin it down. 2 places are more than enough. Okay, so now that that's even on the pattern, put another pin up here if you need to. we are going to sew from here all the way around to the, we're going to start on the thumb because we're sewing this way. I may have to push this pattern down a little bit. I'm too far from the edge. I made this one a little bit bigger thinking it wasn't going to stretch as much. So let me push that down so it's even with the edge there. Okay, one more stitch. Okay, let me start another section here on the video or I'm going to run out of time. Okay, I'll be right back.